Hello and good morning. Welcome to Kelly Soroka Life. And today I'm going to do a reading for you, a kind of weekend head start, uh, head start for the new year reading for you. And this came about because last year I started making a lot of my own readings and writing a lot of my own spreads. And so I have quite a collection, and I thought that a good way to use this collection is to share it with all of you, and we can do this reading together. I will have the reading for you as a photo and a post, and I'll post it some other places that you can do it. But I thought it would be really fun to do these readings together because I did them, and we can do them together, and then you'll have the questions for you, and you can do and use this reading as you would like. Because sometimes I think that the topics would come up for me, and I would do the reading, and it was something that I was working on at the time, but then it might not be something that I would revisit anytime soon. And some things would be topics that might come up over and over again, and I could just go back to that specific reading. But now I'm doing these, I want to share them so that we can all do them here together, and then you can take it if it's something that is interesting to you, or something that you feel like that you need to work on. You're like, oh my gosh, I've been meaning to do something about that topic, but here's the reading, we can do it. So today's reading is called Healing the Karma of an Ancestor. Now, we all have ancestors. Some of our ancestors we know, some of our ancestors we don't know. Some of them are very recent, and some of them are ancestors, people who lived, thousands of years ago. So working with an ancestor has like a broad scope. And so you can work with, and some of the ancestors that you have, you might want to work with, and they are very comforting in your life, and people who are very inspiring and had very inspiring lives. And there might be other people in your history or in your ancestry specifically or as a whole that is more troubling. And it's really hard to work with those ancestors when there's something that that was troubling in their life or in their generation or in their family. And we know as healers that karma, that those actions that they took during their lives affected them then, and it still affects us now. And so in order to, I feel like, to be a good ancestor to be, then we're looking at those things and looking at the way at how we can use healing methods and healing modes that we have today, and help heal that trauma or heal whatever needs to be healed in that, working with that ancestor. Now we're going to do this reading, since we're doing it together, we're going to do this one more like ancestors in general. So we're going to look at things that we can do as a generation that is alive at this specific point in time, and looking in the past, and how our ancestors are kind of their karma, how it's working in our lives today. And that's going to give us, the reading is going to give us details about that and things that we can do specifically to work with that ancestral karma and how we can heal it today. So there's 5 questions to this, and I'll show you the cards. I'm using the Steampunk Tarot today, and I'll show you the cards as we go along, and I'll also have them in the post afterwards so that you can see the questions and you can see the cards that I drew. So the first question is, what practice can we use to heal the karma of this ancestor? So this one I chose, and the card that came up for this one is the 7 of Cups. And I thought this was interesting because the 7 of Cups is all about choices. It's about looking at things, looking at and evaluating the different choices that are out there. So looking at different opportunities, different things that worked well, things that maybe didn't work so well. And when you're working with ancestors, none of us have perfect lives. And so But, some ancestors maybe lived easier lives or better lives, or made choices that seemed to be more in line with living a good life and bringing peace and happiness, instead of bringing something that was hard, or making choices that were hurtful to other people. So when we're looking at and looking at healing, we want to look at the choices that that person made, or the ancestors made in that time period, or at whenever they were alive. And so looking at those things and understanding the background, understanding what went on at that time, is a good way to start this healing practice, to start healing the karma of this ancestor. And so the practice that we can use is doing that, is really being aware of the choices that that person made, that ancestor made, or our ancestors as a whole made, and why. What were the reasons? What can we figure out from that? And being a little bit objective, because the seven of the cups, even though the cups is more intuitive, and we get a lot of intuitive feelings from this ancestor, we also want to look at it. It's a choice. It's looking at it and figuring out what we can do, and how we can put some context around it. So the seven of cups is that practice that we can do, looking at the choices, and being more practical, and looking at the choices that they made in a logical way. Now, that doesn't mean that you look at these choices, and if there are choices that were not really good choices or bad choices, then you do have to take that into account, and take that into a way of saying that this was not a good choice that they made. And we want to heal that, because it is trickling down to this generation. And so then question 2, what may you need to be aware of about this ancestor? So we have the Sun card. So we might need to be aware of the fact that this person maybe was, even though the Sun card is happy, and usually means something that is very happy. Maybe this person or this ancestor was very happy on the outside, and that seemed like things were going really well, but it really wasn't. That there were things that weren't going well, and it was really hard for that person to make good choices, because something else was burning too brightly. So we need to think about that, and think about how that person, and how sometimes that it comes to that we may need to heal that, and look at how that person may have had to hide some things, or may have been in a situation where they needed to hide who they were, or to pretend to be happy when they really weren't. And so looking at that and being aware of that, then we can heal the karma of that ancestor. And then the third question is, how is this ancestor's karma being projected onto this generation? So this is a really good one for us to look at together, since we're looking at ancestors as a whole, and healing the karma of these ancestors. And so the Lover's card is for this question. So how we can heal, how this ancestor's karma is being projected onto us today, is through our relationships. So maybe this person in the past felt like they needed to hide who they were, or make choices that really weren't good for them, even though that, because of some kind of pressure, outside pressure, or something that they thought that this was the right choice to make. So we can look at that, and we can see that maybe we need to be more, make better choices. And that goes back to the Seven of Cups, making choices, and the Lovers, making choices about your relationships, about the people that are around you, the people who are in your life right now. And you can use that knowledge and use that healing power for yourself as well. If there's a relationship in your life, or choices that you're making, that you feel like that you're like, I don't understand why I keep making this choice. It just doesn't make any sense. And maybe it goes back, back to some kind of ancestral karma that you're bringing in today. And then number 4, how can you deep dive into healing this ancestor's karma? And so here we have the Emperor. So here, I think the Emperor and the Lovers go together because you're making choices, and then you're making choices that are going to allow you to deep dive into this healing process. And in order to heal and work with ancestral karma that is maybe not good karma that's affecting you today, you need to have those boundaries. And the Emperor is there to help you with those boundaries, and so that you can deep dive into this healing. You can be, into a more a better place, so that you feel good about working with this and doing this healing work. And it's also telling you that if you're not ready for it, if it's something that is beyond you, or that you feel like that, this person is just not an ancestor or a time period or whatever that you don't want to work with, then don't do it. Put it aside, and you can come back to it another day. And then the last question is, what lesson does this ancestor have for you? And we have the Queen of Wands. So the Queen of Wands is very fiery, but very intuitive. And so looking at this karma and going with the Sun card, especially with what we need to know about this, then we need to know that this person maybe was in a place that they needed to shine, and they really didn't feel like shining. And so we're kind of looking at this healing from that perspective. And then for us going forward, as our lesson in healing this karma, that we need to be creative. We need to be creative in that, because the Wands is very creative, but we also need to listen to our intuition, and we need to know if we're ready, and if we're in a place where we can heal this, or we need to look at ourselves first and see what these choices that we're making, and then we can know to move forward or not. So that is healing the karma of an ancestor. And so even just doing this little reading with us all together, and the more of us that are here and listen and tune into our intuition and to the ancestors, we're already starting that healing process. So we are doing our part even in just this little reading. And so then if you have something that you're working on with an ancestor, or something maybe in your life that you're working on right now, and you would like to tap into this healing energy of the karma of an ancestor, then you can use that to do that for yourself. So it's just one of those, it's nothing that's going to be healed overnight, because it is something that comes from us from the past, and something that we're taking with us into the future. And so looking at that and seeing how we can do that, and how we can make these little steps towards the healing, is going to make all the difference. So that's it for today, and I will be back again next week, and it will be the new year, maybe. so we'll start off the new year with a new reading, something for the year, and we can really deep dive into something new for the new year. But today I'll look for the post with these cards and with these questions, and you can do your own reading with it, or do some journaling or some meditation on this, and start your own healing journey with your ancestors. All right, thank you for being here. If you're here live, or if you are watching the replay, I very much appreciate it. And make sure you subscribe so that you know when classes and lives are coming out, and videos are coming out, and you will be the first to know. All right, have a great day, and I will see you again soon. Bye.